Likewise.
Say we're ready?
Not yet.
Not yet. Firing up here.
Likewise.
Well, welcome, everybody. We're up and running, so this is a city council work meeting. And I'm just gonna go around the room because I'm fairly new and have some introductions. I know Stephanie. Haven't seen you for a while, but I know you.
Preston Lee. I'm a resident with South Point, 248 South Fox Circle.
Operations manager.
Operations manager of Wasatch Integrated also, so yeah, the local recycler.
Nathan Rich, Executive Director, Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District. And I was going to tell on Preston, he's also our Operations Manager, so.
I'm Colette West, I'm the sustainability specialist for Wasatch Integrated.
Thank you. And thanks for coming.
We all know Gary.
Yes, Gary, we know Gary. Trying to convert him, but we know him. So this presentation will be on Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District Recycling Program, and Nathan will start a discussion.
Great.
And this is sort of a work meeting, and I'd like the council to be able to know that we don't have to go through the mayor. We can kind of have a discussion.
I typically like to get up and wander around, but I probably should use the microphone so you get a good recording. Okay, so,
They are.
You can wander around, you can
no,
just.
I'll be all right. Those are pretty cool.
Stand.
So.
Up there.
There it is. So be good practice. So we'll see if I can do this without prowling the room. Maybe I'll make you
Maybe some.
less nervous.
Jason, you can always pick up the microphone and walk around with it if you like.
Give you some space.
Quiet. Okay.
I'd have the same problem sitting still.
Thank you. So please ask questions. We appreciate the opportunity to come and present to Morgan City. We've been through a little bit of a process. So part of this slide deck gives you a little bit of the backstory about, where we've been and why we've made some of the decisions that we're making. And then we'll get into a little bit of the details of the program. So
Where does he point his clicker?
where do I have to? Or is there an on button?
No, I turned it on.
Oh, I see the little slide.
If you tell me, I'll go ahead and click, but
Oh, okay. Wasatch Integrated, we're a special service district. This is handy too. We're actually owned by Davis and Morgan counties and 15 cities within those counties that we serve. So essentially 2 counties with the exception of Bountiful that operates the landfill. They've operated for many years out. You see it off of Legacy Highway. We serve about 325,000 residents, and we handle about 325,000 tons of municipal solid waste. So if your math is as good as mine is, you can do that roughly. Each of us generates about a ton of waste in a year. We currently do that with 73 full-time employees. And although I'm the executive director, I answer actually to a 19-member board. And your board member on that organization is Councilmember London, interesting sidebar. Tony, well, actually, two people have been at Wasatch Integrated longer than I have. One of them is Tony, and the other one is Chad Staples, who's also a resident of Morgan City.
The Orrin Hatch of the Administrative
Yeah.
Control Board.
So, Tony's been there for a while and has done a great job over the years, seen a lot of changes over the years. I'm not going to read this to you, but it's important. Our mission statement talks a lot about, and really our genesis, the district was created to construct and operate the waste to energy facility, which was really progressive solid waste management back in the late 80s. So we've had a long history of treating waste like a resource. We want, of course, maintain fiscal integrity, but we're also want to reuse, reduce, and do things better with our waste than just put it into a landfill. We think that part of our stewardship is taking, resources, both renewable and non-renewable resources, and using those when we can. So Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District is a long name, but it's substantially better than Davis County Solid Waste Management and Energy Recovery Special Service District, which we were originally coined as. There was a law passed in 2005 or 6 that required us to take the county out of the name. But the integrated refers to, it's an approach to solid waste management. And in the industry, it used to be code for we operate a burn plant, but that's changed over the last 15 or so years. And it really talks about we're trying to have an integrated approach to managing our solid waste. This is the EPA's solid waste management hierarchy, right? The most preferred to least preferred. Reduce, right? If we don't make garbage, we don't have to deal with it. Reuse, if you can give it to somebody else. If you can recycle it, and then recover the energy before we put it in a landfill, and then landfill. So historically, we've played in the bottom 2 of those. And now we're moving up a little bit into recycle. The reuse and reduce, we don't do a lot there. We do have a thrift store that I'll show you a little bit. Although a landfill is the least preferred disposal alternative, it's also like the most important to have a well-operated, environmentally compliant landfill, which we do at the Davis landfill. As much as we try and push to divert material from the landfill, most of it ends up in the landfill at the end of the day. So it's least preferred, but it's also really important to our system. We'll talk a little bit more about the Davis landfill. So integrated waste management, there is no one size fits all solution to waste management. There's no, this is what you should do. Each community is different. Waste is local. For years, we operated the waste to energy facility and struggled with combustion in that waste to energy facility because in Davis County, we put our grass clippings in the garbage can, and we actually started processing waste in 2015 to remove the grass. Now, Morgan's waste probably doesn't have as much grass in it because the county is going to toss it out in the field. But this is, the reason the waste to energy facility worked where it worked is because we had Hill Air Force Base next door as our steam customer. So we're always looking for what can we do to improve the performance of our solid waste system, and it's always within the confines of our system. This is an interesting photograph that kind of illustrates that idea. This is was sorted out of a load of recyclables that came out of Kaysville, Utah. And I don't know if it strikes you, if you see anything peculiar about this particular load of tin cans or aluminum cans, UBC as we call them.
Pepsi. We need more Pepsi.
They need more Pepsi, and there's no beer cans.
Very little.
So our waste is different. Salt Lake's waste would look different than this, and other communities' waste, right? St. Louis would be all beer cans. Be all Bud too, probably. So just an illustration. A lot of communities don't have green waste in their waste because they've enacted bans and you can't put green waste in your garbage can. So anyway, that it's kind of just to talk a little bit about why our system looks the way it is, because we're trying to piece together, we're trying to handle the waste better and do it within the kind of the confines of our system. This is our current integrated system. The foundation of that is the Davis landfill. Our green waste recycling and composting facility is currently our largest recycling component of our system. We actually divert about 25,000 tons of green waste through that facility every year. It's actually a great example of upcycling, where we take something locally of no value and turn it into something of higher value. So we make quality wood chip and compost products out of green waste that would otherwise go in the landfill and generate greenhouse gases.
Can I step in for just a sec here, Nathan? So whenever we take grass or we take clippings or leaves or something over here to our little transfer station over here by it ends up down at, as part of this green.
Let's
waste.
call it the tree dump, because
Tree
that's
dump,
what it
the-
is.
The tree dump. It ends up down at the
Yeah.
the landfill, and it's, and I'm not sure our citizens really take advantage, the full extent of the compost and the mulch and that's available down there.
I do.
Yeah.
I love getting that mulch, or I get the, not the mulch, the mulch. Yeah. haul it up.
I'm
It makes-
a medium mulch guy myself.
It makes, the medium, I've been through all of it, but it makes good bedding for our livestock.
But anyway,
in our
that's
barn.
where-
It really does. It kind of, after they're done with it, it kind of just composts down and disappears. And
couple
We've
years.
tried that for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
So if
I
you
like
ever
it.
wondered where your grass clippings are going or some of your limbs and that sort of thing, that's
Yeah.
where they're.
Yeah,
at.
it's a good
So-
deal.
Yeah.
It really
And-
is.
In your green waste, so all green waste that comes in delivered by cities or under city cleanup programs, we had vouchers for years. I'm sorry, I'm a good little backstory. We used to give vouchers to cities based on their population, and we didn't like that program. We segued away from that, I don't know, 10 years or more. So the green waste really benefits Morgan City and Morgan County because it comes in at no charge when it hits the landfill, and that was part of getting rid of that voucher program. So we process that and it goes back out into the community. Oh, the recycling facilities at the landfill and the drop off, our household hazardous waste and electronic waste drop off, where people can drop off materials that shouldn't go in the landfill or in the drain or in the backfield. We get those recycled at no cost to district residents. The landfill thrift store is a newer project. It's been there for 5 or 6 years. This doesn't divert a lot of waste, but we pull material off of that citizen drop-off pad, and we also accept donations, but it's a really good educational opportunity for people to understand. So this is a little bit about reuse. Maybe you do need that new whatever it is, but maybe there's something you can do with the old one. Another component is our landfill gas to energy project. We collect the gas that landfill generates. We currently generate about 2.5 megawatts of power with the gas coming off of that landfill. That project is nearing the end of its life, and we are currently working on a contract to start a new project, a new 25-year project where they'll actually upgrade that gas to pipeline quality, and they'll sell it as renewable natural gas. Has a lot of value if they use it as transportation fuel to help some folks meet some of their carbon initiatives. The newest component of our system is the Davis Material Recovery and Transfer Facility. So we do two things here. We transfer waste because we want that landfill to last longer. And then we've also, this is where the waste to energy facility sat. That's where the material recovery facility is that has the ability to process the recyclable materials.
Oh, and if you hear the term MRF tonight, that's what it is right there.
Is that where it located where the old
Burn plant.
It
burnt
is.
plant was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only thing that's left from the original burn plant is the tipping floor. The boiler house is gone. And then we've got that new building out front, which is the education center on the second floor. We tour about 3,000 fifth or sixth graders. I can't ever remember. They're fifth graders now. They changed the curriculum, so they can see into the transfer station and walk out through the MRF. And then, of course, the transfer station is an important part of that. This is interesting, and I won't spend a lot of time on it, but this is a good illustration of why we are where we are now. You can see the red bars on the out on the right-hand side, and that trails off since 1997 when the waste to energy facility came online. The red is the amount of waste that we were processing at the waste to energy facility. The yellow is our incoming waste. So you can see in 2017, we closed the waste to energy facility in May of 2017. And there's only one place that waste could go, and that's the Davis landfill. And then you can see our increase in waste. COVID was stunning. We had about a 20% increase in waste in 2019, and it tapered back off a little bit. But last year, we were back up to record incoming waste. So there's two ways to extend the life of that landfill. One is to divert it from being landfill, so through like the green waste program or through recycling. The other one is to transfer it to a regional landfill. So you can see the dark purple, we're actually transferring around 100,000 tons per year to a landfill that's located on the Skull Valley Reservation, about 97 miles one way from us. And there's a substantial cost increase when we do that. So what we've been working on the last couple of years, really since the waste to energy facility closed, is how do we transition into the system that's coming? So how long do we want the Davis landfill to last? If we weren't transferring any waste right now, that Davis landfill would last about 8 years. How do we honor our mission statement? Now we could be a 100% landfill operation, but we have this history of trying to do something better with our waste. How do we want to use the material recovery facility, and what are the economic consequences of those choices we make? So in 2022, we engaged a company, GBB. They're a solid waste management consultant, and we went through a process. We started in 21. We had an advisory committee of the board, and we modeled modeled scenarios, and we came up with some recommendations. The first recommendation was the material recovery facility was built to process MSW. So when we closed the waste to energy facility, our intent was to process that MSW, hold the recycling, and we were going to be able to divert a substantial amount of that waste as organics. There's an anaerobic digester located in North Salt Lake, and they were going to take 40,000-ish tons of organics from us. And then we have a longstanding relationship with the cement plant at Devil's Slide. And we've been working with them for 7-8 years. They were going to take a bunch of that sorted waste as engineered fuel. What happened was the material wasn't adequate for the digester, and they're still having their own struggles. The cement kiln didn't put in the feed system that they said they were going to put in. And so we got in November of 22, the decision was made to stop processing MSW. So the equipment worked well. We were recovering recyclables, but we weren't making the diversion. We were diverting about 7 or 8% of the MSW as recyclables. We were separating the others back out and then recombining them. So we stopped the second shift. We stopped processing MSW. The second decision we made is we want that Davis landfill to last about 18 years. And there's a reason for that. It has to operate at a high enough throughput that it's economic and help support our other systems. But we wanted to give it also gives us a lot of operational flexibility. When there's a snow day and we can't run trucks, it gives us a place to go with that. The other thing, and this is really where we've ended up here, is we talked about we want to implement and support robust recycling within the district. And then there's some plans. There will be an additional transfer station built at the Davis landfill when it reaches capacity. So we'll continue. When we talk about closing the landfill, what most residents are concerned about isn't really the landfill, it's the customer service facilities that are there. And so we'll continue to operate those, the composting facility, the citizen drop off into the foreseeable future. And we'll replace the disposal capacity with a transfer station. So the question, I guess, almost, well, about a year ago, well, anyway, time flies, was, okay, what does it mean to implement robust recycling? So we went through a process. We hired another engineer. We pulled a bunch of data from cities, interviewed some peer jurisdictions and held some stakeholder meetings. And the board took some action in November, which is really the progress we're at now. So what we're asking cities to do, and you'll find this information interesting. There's two ways and I mentioned this already, two ways to divert waste or to make that landfill last a little longer. And it's not just the life of the Davis landfill, because we won't recycle our way out of closing that landfill. It's too close to the end. But any waste our system diverts, we also won't have to pay to transfer to somebody else's landfill 100 miles from here. So it's about getting a system in place that has some waste diversion options before we're 100% transfer station operation.
Nathan, can I make a comment here?
Please.
The mayor just asked me a question. He said, what's MSW? Municipal solid waste. Originally, when we built that MRF, you correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, you know, I was happy to tell people that no matter what they put in their black can, you're recycling because it's going to be recycled. That, as you mentioned a moment ago, did not work too well because of various reasons. We were recovering, what was it, 8% diversion?
About 8% diversion. Yeah.
That actually meant you had people on the line just picking.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of shifts there, and it just was not working out.
And it was a great progressive idea, but you know, at the end of the day, our offtake partners just didn't accept the materials. So, you know, the question is, what do we do now? So, you know, how best do we use that material recovery facility? So interestingly, we currently have recycling bins, and this was prior even to us building our material recovery facility. We have recycling bins at about 45% of the households in Davis County. A lot of the cities, and not surprisingly, it came from the south toward the north, you know, implemented recycling programs years ago. I think the first one to roll out was Woods Cross, probably in the 2004 or 5 timeframe. So the idea is that, and so go to the next slide for me. So this is a graphical representation of with curbside recycling programs. The blue is the percentage of waste that we're diverting using a blue can with the standard recyclables. The green is actually our green waste program. Now, green waste program, we have green waste in 7 of our cities. You can see that, you know, I'm not sure that green waste makes sense in Morgan. Not everyone can use a green waste can, and the program feels a little bit differently. But a blue can, you know, everybody generates recyclables. Everyone buys things that can be recycled and frankly should go in a blue recycling can. These programs were all implemented unilaterally. And you know, some cities have done better than others. You can see there's some subscription programs, you know, Layton and Sunset. Most of these programs were rolled out as opt-out programs, which means they gave people a period of time to say, we don't want a can. And then after that time, they locked them in. But some of these cities didn't follow that policy. And so their subscription rate has slid, like Sunset. You know, 15 years ago, they were at 85% participation. Now they're around 30 again. So with better education and recycling, more of a universal recycling program, we believe we can get about 15% diversion through the blue can. And surprisingly, through a completely optional green waste program, we can get another 15% through the green waste program. We believe we can approach 30% landfill diversion through these 2 programs over time. So that's you know, so that's why we're talking about what we're talking about. apologize, I'm probably taking too long. This is just a comparison of fees paid within the district, so you can get an idea of what communities are paying. Morgan unfortunately suffers from distance, and not necessarily distance from our facilities, but particularly Morgan County, distance between pickups. You know, those are tough routes to haul. This gives you an idea, and this is a simple regression, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, why universal participation or a bundled program is helpful, because it helps control costs. The unit cost goes down if more people participate. So go ahead. What we're asking cities to do, and you might argue that we're not asking, because if right now, the way the resolution is written and the action the board's taken, if cities choose not to implement a program, there will be a fee increase on the first can. And there's an ongoing discussion about whether that's the right way to handle that or not. But what we're asking for is we know that bundled service, and what that means is that on your utility bill, there's one line, it says solid waste services, and there's a dollar value associated to it, and people get a garbage can and a recycling can. So there's not a conversation about, you know, why do I have to have the recycling can? It's not an à la carte menu. It's very common. I live in Ogden, and it's solid waste, and there's my $25, and I get a garbage can and a recycling can. So the reason we're really pushing for that bundled service is higher participation drives costs down, right? So if you have 95% of your residents participating, your hauler's going to give you a better price for that recycling can. Effectiveness, the more people we have participate, the higher our diversion is going to be, right? So if you have 30% of your residents diverting 10% of their waste, the system sees 3% diversion from the landfill. But if you have, 90 to 100% of your residents diverting, 10 to 15% of your waste, then we start moving the needle. So it's that idea that it's really effective. If we're going to go through the effort and the pain of implementing a program, we want it to be effective. And then the last one is longevity. It avoids this subscription drift that you get when somebody moves into a community. So the city staff doesn't explain to them, this is why you should have a recycling bin. It's just part of the service that gets applied. So the requirements of the program, under the bundled solid waste program, someone can ask for their recycling cart to be picked up, but their fee shouldn't change. They should pay for the system, even if they don't want a recycling can, right? So if somebody doesn't want a recycling can, we don't want them to have it because we don't want them to fill it full of rocks. But they shouldn't get a reduction in their solid waste fees. They're actually generating more waste. We're going to utilize coordinated educational materials that will come from the district. And the timeline is July of 2025 for implementation at this point. And that's when that fee differential will go into place. So there's time, plenty of time. So one thing that we have thinking about the pain that will be inflicted at the city level rolling out a program is going to be the residents that show up at the city council meeting and say, I don't want this recycling bin. Thinking about how to handle that, we've come up with a hardship policy. And under the hardship policy, the city can choose to set up a hardship policy using whatever criteria you want. I would suggest that after the bins roll out, maybe you require somebody to come in the city office and fill out a form. But the point being that the hardship policy, you can charge them less on their solid waste fee. We still want you to give them a recycling can. So the hardship policy shouldn't get them out of the recycling can, but it should take the sting out of the program for, frankly, I don't think a large number of folks that are not going to want that. The other thing is, again, if somebody after the cans have been delivered and they use it for a while, if they don't want the can, we should go around and pick up those cans. What's nice about those cans that get picked up, although it won't change the rate those people are paying, the city won't be paying the hauler for those cans, right? So there's what the city charges their residents doesn't necessarily need to be directly connected to what the hauler's charging the city. And then, of course, that bundled at the end. We know that Morgan County has recycling at about 17% of the households in Morgan County have recycling. It's serviced by Mountain West Recycling, and those cans are pretty expensive. They're, I think, on the order of $15 a month. The survey work we did with GBB a couple of years ago indicated that about 62% of the residents of the district would be happy to pay $5 a month for a recycling program. We think that hopefully you'll get some pricing. Unfortunately, Morgan County might be a little bit more than the $5 range, but we're seeing pricing in Davis County in the $4 range for that recycling bin under a mandatory program. About 20% of your residents have a second garbage can. So depending on why you have a second garbage can, if it's because you make too much garbage, there's a high likelihood that with a recycling bin and segregating your waste, maybe you don't need your second garbage can. So there's a potential for people to actually even save a little bit of money by turning in their second garbage can and with the delivery of the recycling bin. So I know, I realize that I've taken a long time and really appreciate your patience with me. So I'm going to let Colette, she just has a few slides to talk about why we should be recycling.
Is this on? Like if I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
hold it? Okay. I think I might stand by the slides. So Nathan has covered, why the bundled program is important for, driving costs down, actually making an impact in diversion, but I'm gonna go over really why we should recycle. So nature recycles everything. There's no such thing as a way. There are no landfills in nature outside of the ones we've created, right? And nature systems are very efficient and resilient. So we have lots of organisms like mushrooms and earthworms breaking down dead plant matter, making them into usable nutrients for new plants and animals. So it's a very circular process. So the goal is to transition our systems to follow some of nature's principles. So if you've ever heard of circular economy, it really encompasses that nature recycles everything principle. Now, when we waste things and just bury it in the ground or even burn it, it creates a linear system here. So a take, make, waste system. The district is somewhere kind of in between the linear and recycling economy with also some circular economy components, but with really rolling out and expanding the access to recycling to residents throughout our whole district, we're going to move more towards that fully recycling economy and even expanding our green waste program. And with a linear economy, it's not very diverse. You have to heavily rely on raw materials. So it's really hard to preserve our natural environments, especially with the consumption rates that we have seen with our waste increasing. Now with to transition to a fully circular economy, it's quite the effort. It takes, product designers thinking of the afterlife of their product, extended producer responsibility legislation, consumer choices and demand, all the way to material management, a lot of what we're doing at Wasatch Integrated. And with the circular economy, there's much more than recycling. So we have remanufacturing. So for example, when you turn in your cell phone and when you get a new one, they're going to save those precious metals, turn them into a brand new phone. So take back programs are a good way for corporations to save those materials, turn them into just as good of a new product. Next slide. So a circular economy has three main goals. So eliminate waste and pollution, circulate products and materials at their highest value, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and regenerate nature. So like composting, we're putting that value back into the soil, keeping it out of landfill, generating greenhouse gas emissions. So along with, creating a more diverse economy, preserving our natural resources and saving energy, a circular economy could also help add a lot of economic output. So Goldman Sachs found by implementing a circular economy could help add 4.5 trillion global additional economic output by 2030 and 25 trillion by 2050. And this little graphic here was a study done just for Utah on just increasing our recycling efficiency. And it's obviously very significant economic output by just increasing our recycling programs and diversion. So when we're bearing, materials in landfill, we're bearing value. Next slide. So what is the district doing to close the loop and recover these materials? So we kind of already mentioned how we closed the waste to energy facility. We're now opening the MRF, and now we're going to just process single stream recyclables. Now we're here in 2024, 2025, rolling out district-wide curbside recycling. After this, we want to expand our green waste program, so we're able to process, more cities' green waste. And depending on how good our diversion efforts are here will determine when the Davis landfill will close and when a new transfer station will need to be built. So with this program, with the recycling program, we can give our residents a can, but for it to really be effective, we really need good communication, which what the district, we're going to provide a lot of that education and communication for recycling. And so the recycling partnership actually has found that 75% of recyclables are lost at the household level. So a lot of that is due to, infrastructure, residents not having access, but a lot of that is also due to lack of education. They also found that 75% of Americans don't recall receiving any, education from their local program within the past year. But they found for those who remembered the education that they were satisfied with their service, they recycled more, and they were knowledgeable about what was happening to their recyclables, believed that they were being made into new products. So really, what are the next steps for this program? So the cities are responsible for purchasing the carts. You can either have your hauler do that. You guys can do it. Doesn't really matter. We just want the city to own those cans. And the recycling partnership, so they're a nonprofit who dedicates their efforts to expanding curbside recycling for single family, multifamily, and they give out grants to help implement these programs. So we have actually been awarded, the district has been awarded money from the recycling partnership, and we will distribute this to cities as they roll out a universal program. And we are receiving $15 towards each cart. So it's great. It will offset some of that cost of purchasing the carts. And, back to education and communication, what we're going to pay for a mailer indicating the cart is coming. So the recycling partnership, they're going to assign us a project manager that's going to help us design all of these communication flyers. So here's an example of one. And then we're also going to have recycling signage for the carts. So we're going to pay for stickers that are going to go right on the cart. That's going to explain what goes in the can, what doesn't go in the can. And then also we're going to have continuing education on anti-contamination strategies. Also, our haulers can help tag carts if something was extreme in someone's can. And then I've been connecting with city media contacts. So we're going to get consistent education through, I will have snippets for you guys to put in your newsletter, things like that. And then we'll also have a landing page on our website for more education on recycling and ways to reduce your waste. And we're also welcome to come back to any of your city council meetings and any city events. You guys can have us come out. We're happy to help educate the residents on what's happening. And next slide. So this is actually one of our final drafts, might be our final draft of our signage, we'll see. So I'm gonna just kind of quickly go over some of these materials that we recover and bale. So aluminum and steel, they're very valuable. They can be recycled over and over again, maintaining their value. So definitely put those in your can. We bale those, they're made into new products. And so for example, recycling an aluminum beverage can saves 95% of the energy rather than making an aluminum can from raw materials. So quite significant energy savings. With preventing all that energy being used, it reduces greenhouse gas emissions as well. Then plastics can be super confusing. So we want to communicate as best we can about plastics, but so bottles, jugs, and tubs, keep it simple at the same time. So we bale plastics 1 and 2 to be sold to the market, made into new products. We don't take plastics number 3. And then plastics 4 through 7 and some mixed paper are currently going to the cement kiln and being used as energy, how Nathan mentioned earlier. Paper and cardboard also saves a lot of energy, tons of trees and water. When we recycle paper and cardboard, we definitely capture a lot of cardboard for sure, sold to the market, made into new paperboard or cardboard products. Then we also have some information here on we want to keep our recyclables loose and empty, so do not bag recyclables. That way our machines can actually sort out the materials. And tomorrow and Thursday, we have a city staff and manager meeting. So we are actually going to give tours, kind of go more into depth of the logistics of rolling out the program, more about that grant. And then we just have some info too on where to drop off some of these other hard to recycle materials like glass, clothing, batteries, electronics. You could see that, where to drop that off in the picture that Nathan showed. Oh, sorry, can you go back one side? But yeah, going back to the hierarchy here, recycling is really important, but I'm going to show a fun video on how impactful reuse activities can be compared to single-use items. So then we'll end there after this video. Right. Well, thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, we're open to answering them.
Nathan, I've got a couple of questions. Just looking back at the slide there, the city-sponsored curbside recycling programs. There's half a dozen cities, Morgan City and Morgan County, that don't sponsor anything. Why haven't we been part of a program before where these other cities are? How is it that we're just getting to these half a dozen now?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a long history in the district and in Davis County. When I first came to Wasatch Integrated, nobody recycled. And I think, we all leaned on the burn plant for a long time. And people said, well, we don't need to recycle because they have the waste to energy facility. But I think in part that was true, actually. And so, the district was never involved directly in recycling programs. In fact, a little bit, the first recycling program rolled out in Woods Cross. And I said to Woods Cross, I said, look, why don't you let us do the contract? And then as other cities want to add, we'll have bigger contracts and we'll see if we can get some better pricing on those. And they did that. And 3 years later, when the next city rolled out, I think it was probably North Salt Lake, they didn't want to play. So we backed out. And so cities have basically done this unilaterally without any involvement from the district. So these have come from cities, from people coming to city council meetings. And that's why I say they've kind of come from the south to the north. And it has a lot to do with, the makeup of your residents and their desire, as people move in to say, well, why aren't we recycling? And so I think now without the waste to energy facility, our system has changed. It's part of a solid waste management system. I mean, it's best practice in the industry. So that's why we're kind of wading into it a little bit now and saying we probably should all be doing something similar.
Can I add one thing to that is the location of the material recovery facilities also were a little bit detrimental to Morgan City because you'd have to drive all the way down to South Salt Lake. That's where the two material recovery facilities were. So the cost was prohibitive for our residents.
Just the geography, the distance.
Yeah, and that changed when we opened ours.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that, when we talk with haulers and as cities are relooking at their hauling or their contracts, for recyclables. A couple of things have changed since most of those contracts were negotiated. And the primary one is now that the material recovery facility is processing them, they're being delivered to Layton and not Salt Lake. So the hauling costs are a little bit better. They're also coming into the facility at no additional charge. So actually, part of the cost of operating that facility is being paid through the household use fee. So as haulers are renegotiating contracts with their cities, they understand, right? So prior, they were hauling it all the way to Salt Lake and they were paying a tipping fee when they got there. And then the third thing that's changed a little bit is when you have that universal participation, higher participation should drive costs down a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in Morgan.
So the program type, promoting the bundled program, and for all the reasons that you said, it seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Looking at the dozen or so communities that are participating, there's only one, Woods Cross, that does the program type called bundled. The others are the opt-out.
It's true.
Why wouldn't there be more bundled programs out there?
You know, my sense of it is the easiest way to roll out a program, they call it opt-out. And you roll it out and you give people a period of time, and most of them are opt-out and then become mandatory, right? So you're just trying to take the sting out of the rolling the program out. You give people 3 months to opt out, and they did that and then never made changes to their program to take it to the next step. So a lot of the cities, this puts a little bit of pain on everyone except for Woods Cross. Those guys are pretty ecstatic. They're like, well, it's about time, everyone else came along. But a lot of the cities, you look at Centerville and they're pretty close because they got serious about their mandatory. After the opt-out period, they really did. Everybody who moved in got a can. And if you move from one house to another, you got a can. So for them, it's going to be as simple as just combining the two lines on their bill. And we would like to see those communities give those households that opted out another shot at it.
So I'd like to give Gary a bad time, and we can now because he's no longer with Layton City. Recycling participation, Layton wins there, Gary. I don't know if you noticed that, but they're 30% participation. Why did Layton end up with they call it a subscription program rather than maybe one of these others? And again, being the bigger elephant there of the group, how did it end up being that that was better for them?
Well, Layton, it all comes down to education, really. And for a long time, what Nathan says is true, and that is that the burn plant was considered to be the ultimate recycling.
Mm-hmm.
And Layton was pretty proud of that. And then after the burn plant left, which 2017, was that about where it left? Layton, it took all cities a little while to figure out a recycling program of some sort, and it just wasn't a priority for Layton because recycling has gone through different phases. There were phases where recycling was thought to be really, really beneficial and would yield high returns. And then it went back again to where nobody really wanted what was being recycled. And now it's back to a point, I guess, where it is financially beneficial to do that. And so Layton just never changed its course. And we do have recycling, but it's just it's just subscription is what it is right now.
So I just a quick comment to that, if you don't mind. Actually, when we did the numbers and looked at everybody's numbers, I was pretty impressed that Layton was at 30% on purely a subscription basis. So it's purely optional. People have to call to get a recycling can, and 30% was higher than I thought they would be. And I think that's an indication of how many people want to recycle. And then the problem is you get this huge middle ground of people who wouldn't mind recycling, but they're not going to make the call to get it delivered. And so when you do that opt out, that's why you jump from 30 to 85%. And then, you know, you got to go mandatory to get from 85 to
So, I
200.
mean, that brings up maybe another question. Is it, can you go from this subscription that Layton has to a mandatory program? Or is that, once it's set, is that where they're at from here on out?
Well, I'm sure. But you know, it's a change in the program and, you know, it'll, you know, it will require them to offer, you know, the other households that recycling can. But you know, what's interesting is their unit price, is I think around $6.50 or $7.50 for that recycling can at 30% participation. So, you know, Layton, and we threw those numbers up here, they have, well, not only do they have they have a program run through their hauler, Waste Management, they also have the same provider up here who's just, you know, gone out and drummed up the business, running down the street in Layton. But those folks, will see their costs go down as participation goes up. So yeah, they can do that. It'll be, but it's a process.
Educational too, I'm sure.
Yeah, yes. And most, you know, most of the cities lie somewhere between those. Sunset's a really interesting study because although they're very small, when they rolled out their program, they probably had 85% participation. This would have been 15 years ago. And then without a city manager, they're not as fortunate as Morgan to have a city manager to, you know, properly implement programs. It's just slipped to 30%. And so now they got to, you know, go out and kind of re-implement that program.
And for that reason, Dave, personally, I'm grateful that we don't have anything in place right now rather than trying to be like some of the cities that are.
That was, yeah, a little bit of what I was
It's
interested
almost good
in.
that we're
Yeah.
starting fresh.
Starting from scratch.
One other comment I wanted to make, and I asked Nathan this question a couple of times, is for those who have a private can in the city now or the county now, I asked Nathan, I says, how difficult is it going to be for them to cancel that contract
Mhm.
to become part of the district-wide? And Nathan,
Thank you.
I'll let you answer that.
Thank you for asking that question.
That was one of the
So-
questions I had.
So one of the things that we did with our hauler stakeholder meetings, because there's three haulers that operate in the district, and we're really fortunate. We have three great haulers. Waste Management, Robinson, he handles about 50% of the accounts, residential accounts, and then Ace Disposal. And Ace is a little bit newer to the district, but Ace owns and operates Mountain West Recycling. And so we had several conversations. They're the ones that are going to be most impacted of the haulers, but he's also going to pick up cans in the cities that he services. So we've negotiated a program where we're actually allowing him to deliver those recyclables at no cost during this transition period. When a city is prepared to roll out a program, we'll work together with him. And when the new can hits the ground, he'll roll around and pick up his cans. So we've taken care of that issue for your
But you're
residents.
competing with him though, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore. We're basically replacing him.
Mhm.
But he's okay with that because when he goes out and bids on these other city contracts, those services will be provided through the city and he'll be bidding on those. So at the end of the day, all the
I see.
haulers win because there's more cans on the
Okay.
ground.
Just last question, that is, with the recycling, you project maybe an 18-year build out period, for lack of a better word, but
Yeah.
what do you do after that?
Well, and really we drive the life of the landfill by how much we divert is a minor piece of it. The bigger piece of it is how much we transfer. So what happens then is we'll close the landfill to commercial traffic. We'll probably leave it a little bit open for some operational flexibility, but there will be another transfer station and it will likely be built at the Davis landfill to replace that capacity, because we don't just have to replace today's capacity. We have to be planning for, what we're going to look like 20 years from now, 20 and 30 years from now. So there's a good reason to have the transfer station we have is very efficient. But to divide that traffic a little bit so we don't completely impact one neighborhood. So the answer is we'll build a second transfer station. I suspect down the road, and this is even beyond my planning horizon, right? My real horizon is pretty short. My planning horizon about 20 years from now, you know, there may be a day when Morgan County wants to consider locating a transfer station actually in Morgan County, so that, you know, we provide that service closer to home. The struggle with that is always the location, right? Everyone thinks it's a great idea until you point to a piece of property.
Not in my
Not
backyard.
my backyard.
I spent about 15 years trying to locate a transfer station in South Davis County, because originally that was the idea. When Bountiful opted out of the district, there was going to be a transfer station in Bountiful somewhere. And we actually, I think, purchased one piece of property and two other properties under option. And as soon as, you know, we announced those properties, the host city was none too pleased. So we haven't been able to do that. But at some point that may be in a,
But then from there forward, you're transporting waste out to some
Yeah.
remote location.
yeah. Right now it's 97 miles to Waste Management's Tecoy landfill. We also are 1/4 owner of a large regional landfill located in Utah County on the west side of Utah Lake. It's called the Bayview landfill. We participate with 3 other governmental entities. We're not using that because our hauling cost was prohibitive when we entered that contract 5 years ago or 4 years ago. But we believe we'll actually be transferring to that landfill in the next couple of years to support our own operation. But it's 120 miles or about 108 miles one way. So there's
Anything in
cost to that.
Northwestern Utah that could be a possibility? It just seemed like there's a lot of open land up that way.
There is. Yeah, I spent a lot of time, and Gary
Yeah.
probably has a lot of memories of Box Elder County.
So-
I'm sorry, you're asking the question, so I'll go down these rabbit holes. We
That
actually
that was the last
purchased-
one.
We actually purchased a permitted landfill from Box Elder County in 1994 timeframe. And it was in a place called White's Valley. And when we went to move forward, this was before my time, when we went to move forward, they wouldn't give us the conditional use permit after we'd purchased it from them. So then there was legislation, and there was a landfill siting committee, and then there were a couple of other efforts to do something with Box Elder and Cache County. That at the end of the day, same thing. There's a group of local residents in Box Elder County that it didn't matter, even if it was out in the middle of the desert somewhere, they didn't want other communities' waste coming into their county. So we feel really fortunate that South Utah Valley was the public entity that owned the Bayview landfill, realized that it's a very large landfill. It's on state trust land. So there's years and years and years of capacity that by opening the doors, their tip fee went from $28 a ton to $10 a ton. And now it would be, you know, closer to $35 a ton. But because of the increase in volume, we're operating that landfill really efficiently, and it benefits them and benefits the other communities.
Thank you, Nathan.
My pleasure.
We could have made White's Valley like a pheasant hunting preserve or something.
Should have.
All right. I got a couple of questions and they should be fairly easy. You already answered my ACE recycling because I'm one of those that already have a.
I'm proud of
recycling
you. I
can.
passed a couple of those cans on the way
Yeah,
in.
I gotta get mine out tonight, which brings me to my first question. Will this be a same day pickup?
It would be something you negotiate with your hauler, right? So we want
Be
to,
up to us.
we
to
want
negotiate
to,
that?
we want to help you any way we can.
That would be
Have that
nice.
conversation with your hauler, but Robinson understands the program, and that is between you and Steve Robinson. I would highly recommend it. Yes.
Yes, that would be nice.
Yeah.
The next one, and maybe just for a few minutes, expand on the green waste. You said in the future, maybe Morgan, we're gonna have to look at that.
Yeah.
Just real briefly, what do you see into the future, how that would look?
Well, if you looked at and I was stunned with the numbers actually, that we have cities that have green waste recycling. When we we rolled these out like 8 or 9 years ago, 2009, 14 years ago. And the big push when we rolled those out, we were trying to get the grass out of the garbage to help with combustion at the waste to energy facility. So we thought, all right, let's do this curbside green waste program. And cities that we convinced should roll those out as an opt-out program, which means we delivered a can to every household. And if people didn't want the can, they didn't have to have them. So there's no mandatory to that. We found that we got about 50 to 52% participation in those communities. So Fruit Heights, Centerville, Farmington, cities that thought that opt-out was too heavy-handed, and I still don't understand that, because if you didn't want a can, you called up and it went away. Syracuse rolled out a subscription program. They got about 20% participation. But if you look at Kaysville, at 52% of those people participating, and they use that for green waste 9 months of the year. The other 3 months, we let them use it for garbage. They get as much or more diversion through that green waste can, just having 50% of the people participate in that program, because grass is so heavy in the middle of summer. And also that green waste it's recyclable, and it's also the waste that generates methane in a landfill. I say look for that to maybe be coming once we get through this bloodbath. We're going to come back to cities and we're going to talk about green waste programs. The difference is, I think we can do what we've done in our other 6 cities that have green waste programs on a pure optional basis, because not everyone needs a green waste can. Not everyone mows their own lawn. A lot of people have lawn services, so.
And we're unique here as well with our tree dump.
Tree
Yeah,
dump,
yeah.
Morgan County,
It's not
if you're bagging your grass and putting it in your garbage can, what is that field for behind your house?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you not that everybody applies here, but the dinner bell rings when I collect my grass clippings. My cows think that's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
They love it. Anyway, but I can't take everybody's grass. Next question for you is,
Green waste. I can let you know that we do have interest in the city for green waste cans, because we do have
yes,
a handful of people that will call and get a second can for the 6-month period over the summer for their grass. And then
I
we've
think,
had people call and ask if we provide a can because they don't want to drive it down to the transfer station.
exactly.
So I think in the long run, I think we are going to have interest for it in Morgan City.
I would agree with you. That's why I brought it up.
But I would hope in an opt-out sort of a scenario, I would think it would make
Yes.
more sense to me.
Because
So,
I agree. I see a lot of my neighbors have a yard care company that comes and
Yeah.
hauls it away for them.
and it's probably very personal to me, because every bit of my grass clippings I take down to the tree dump. So,
Right,
you know,
and most of your residents that have a second can typically have that to bag their grass. So, we've been asked to roll out green waste programs, and we've said no, because we didn't believe we had capacity at the composting facility. But we're ready. So, I think we're ready if cities want to talk about green waste. And maybe this is something to talk about. Maybe we do them both at the same time. quite frankly.
I think we could definitely talk about that anyway.
So,
What about the businesses, the commercial cans? What about the businesses? Are they going to be, I guess they're going to have to recycle also at the bigger cans, the bigger commercial cans? I'm talking the ones,
Yeah.
the residential ones,
Yeah, yeah.
businesses.
yeah.
Every
So-
business going to get one?
Have cans.
Oh,
We only
well then
have
never mind.
the 90-gallon cans.
Mhm.
If a business wants any larger, we recommend them going directly through Robinson.
Easy
Part of
answer.
your hardship program too, if you didn't, there are a couple of businesses that have the 90-gallon, but probably don't, so.
Okay.
And one other quick thing to that point, about the hardship, they talked about the hardship case. There's something else that as a city council, we're going to have to decide what criteria we set as far as hardship is concerned. That won't be set by the district. That would be set by our council, what we want to constitute as a hardship case. So that's something to be thinking about.
There's one more that I got, and this is pretty easy. Maybe we already do it. Do we accept electronic waste, batteries, screens, and stuff at our transfer
Tony's got
station
this
here in
one.
Morgan?
I was,
Did I just bring up something?
yeah, and I was gonna mention this about 5 or 10 minutes ago. It came up in the presentation. So when we talk about closing the landfill, Nathan mentioned this, or it was on the presentation. Bear in mind that that doesn't mean, I mean, you're always going to be able to go down to the Davis landfill and take your hazardous waste. You're gonna be able to go down there and take your batteries. You're gonna go, just, just like you do right now. So
You guys don't accept those.
Okay. I'm just saying, I'm just thinking, like,
Take it right there, Eric.
yeah, well, the problem is I drive by there, but I don't ever take it with me.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
If I
yeah.
had an easy place to take it, I would do it. But I'll just tell you, one time I was in a city and I had a computer screen that broke and I'm like, I can't just throw this in the trash. So it seemed like I drove like 45 minutes to find a place to take the stupid screen. I'm like, I've wasted more time taking this computer screen. I should have just chucked it in the trash. And I'm just saying, I'm just saying, if you made it easy for the residents to take their electronic stuff, the batteries, I mean, I got batteries that I'm like,
Bring him to us.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll take them.
Preston's house.
Next time I
can do
come
that.
down to get.
You know where the landfill
Next
is.
time I go to get some mulch, I'll bring you a big
All
old
right, there you
pile of
go.
them.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's that whole idea. You come in, drop off your household hazardous waste, your batteries, drop off your garbage, pick up some mulch. Full service.
And maybe it just boils down to education, but I just think that may be.
I
something
was
down the
just gonna
road.
say, that's an education thing.
So on our signage,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a QR code. You scan that, takes to the educational landing page, and there's gonna be more details on, oh, what do you do with your e-waste? And then we're gonna get more.
Yeah, cause it's just one of those things. You don't want to just chuck it in the trash, but.
Eric, I go down there every day, just like.
I mean,
Yeah.
Keep your truck open.
I definitely have the impression, having been on this board for many years, that most of the, not most, but a lot of people in Morgan City really don't know what is available down there.
I don't have a clue.
We roll our can out on a Wednesday night, Thursday morning, it's gone, and
And
it's gone,
Sunday.
it's gone downriver and out of the county. That's all we care about, right? So
There, I don't know how many times, I bet, maybe every other week I answer a question about where do we take this, where do we take that? And so I think that education is something that's.
Yeah.
People want to know, and gratefully I'm on there and I can give them that information, but not everybody has that
yeah,
information. So.
and the education on this recycling is going to have to be huge, pull that huge, so.
I think if that presentation, if we could somehow send that to every resident's house, that film, it would, like, it opened my mind. I'm one of the ignorant.
So one thing that we do offer is free buses for the elementary schools or the high schools to come down. We haven't had a whole lot of participations up here with this. Maybe I should reach out and see if we can't at least start educating the kids, which, has an upward movement.
And thanks, right? You are welcome. We would love to have you come and tour the material recovery facility and see the fun happen down there.
I got word about it. I brought three bus loads of kids last year from Summit County down.
Oh,
I've told them here at Morgan, I said, you've got to take the kids out. It's a fascinating field trip. And we lined it up, we hit that and Weber Basin, and
Yeah.
the kids, it opened it was an amazing job. So
Good.
yeah, we could do more from the community.
And we'll entertain, tours of any community group. We do homeschool tours. So if you've got a, whatever group, if you're a member of the Elks or the whatever, come on down. We'd love to show you what we're doing.
Maybe we're gonna have a tour.
Yeah.
So Nathan, probably to get set up and running, probably the biggest obstacle in my mind is going to be the mandatory aspect of it.
Yeah.
Outside of education, how do you combat that?
I think, I think that's it.
Okay.
And then I think, the experience is, and in this, might help to talk to some of the cities that have rolled out programs like that. I think you'll find the pushback, it'll be interesting to see, right? But I don't know that the pushback is going to be that loud and is really not that long. So the biggest tool that we've given the city is use that hardship program, right? And if somebody, just doesn't want it, I would recommend that you have a form. Make them at least come, don't just let them off the hook over the phone. Make them at least come down, fill out a form, but they fill out a form and you say, that's fine. You don't have to pay the additional cost of because there's going to be a cost differential on the program. And you still deliver them a can to see if they'll keep the can. But that will really help, I think, the council and the staff deal with that, because nobody wants 30 residents to show up to every meeting and be angry because it feels like the whole community when it's probably not.
Okay, thank you.
And frankly, even if you had, let's say, 15% of your community opt out, which I think is probably high, right? Or that you allowed that hardship pricing, after the program is rolled out, I would recommend that you revise your hardship policy and make it more along the lines of, linked to something that you would look at for utility bill or something, so basically a link to income or something like that. But during the rollout period, if you want to be pretty easy with the hardship policy, go ahead.
Gotcha. Good point. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, just, Mayor? Yeah,
Open.
Okay. First one is, do you know what percentage, one of the concerns that Layton had was in a mandate situation, that people are going to take the second can, they're just going to put what they normally put in their second can. And do you know what percentage actually under a mandate situation? Because do you know anybody that's tried the mandate before, and do you know what happens in that situation?
Well, a lot of cities run mandated programs, and we process that material. So Ogden City's a mandated program. We process that material. Woods Cross, some of the cities that are technically opt out are mandatory programs now. So Centerville, Farmington, all those cities are mandatory recycling. They just haven't pulled in those people that originally opted out. We find that the quality of the recyclables coming into our facility, based on the opinion of some of the national firms we have looking at the material, it's really high quality recyclables. The other thing that's really interesting is the material recovery facility was built as a mixed waste processing facility. And I apologize for all the acronyms, but it was built with a very robust front end because it's built to process straight garbage that comes out of your garbage can. So if somebody puts a little bit of something in there that shouldn't be in there, it increases the residue that comes out the end, but it doesn't impact the equipment per se. So the equipment is built to handle rougher material. Now, we would like people to clean it up, because then we end up processing stuff that ends up as residue that we could have just easily thrown away as residue. But I think over time, as people have the can and get used to the can, that may be an initial response. But somebody who's going to do that may be also the person that says, why don't you just come and take this can from me? In which case we encourage cities to pick that can up.
Is enforcement up to the city as well? Like, in other words, if you find somebody that's violating
So by
continually
enforcement,
violating the policy and putting stuff in the garbage that they shouldn't be putting, or
enforcement, we have not found that enforcement per se has really been an issue. It would be between the city and the hauler particularly. So person that's going to notice contamination problems is the truck driver, because all of those trucks have a camera on them now. So when he dumps, so it's an ongoing educational process. If a driver notices that a particular house continues to have highly contaminated material, they'll start by putting a piece of paper on the top and tagging it and say, hey, you should do better. Don't put these things in your can in overtime. I don't know that any cities in Davis County are actually pulling cans. I do know in Ogden, I had a neighbor tell me once that they took her can and she had to go down to the city and watch a video to get her recycling can back.
Like
But
a
I think that's
driver's
probably a little bit heavy-handed. Gary, I think the answer is you just keep pushing on the education message and expect a certain amount of contamination goes in the cans and it's really not that big of an issue.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
So I'm hoping that you can settle a dispute between my wife and I, since you brought a team of people here. I also have a recycling can. Pizza box, recycle or garbage?
So this is a really interesting question because nobody knows what goes in their recycling can, right? I mean, that's one of the biggest issues is that people stand there in front of their garbage can and their recycling can and they're like, what goes in what? But everyone knows that a pizza box can't be recycled, right? I mean, that's been, for some reason, that's been ingrained in everyone. The industry, and this happened about 1.5 years ago, actually surveyed the cardboard mills, and the cardboard mills said, we're fine with pizza boxes. Take out the pizza,
Yeah,
take out the greasy foil or the greasy thing,
yeah.
but go ahead and throw the pizza box in. But you
send me
know
a
what's
text
funny?
Or something that I can show my wife?
So
One that- Well, I'm not gonna make her watch an 1.5 hour meeting to.
no, so
The thing, but-
so that's the professional answer.
Oh,
This
so
is
don't
this is me
retract.
giving you some personal marital advice. It's whatever she says.
I'll send you a
It's just
text.
a pizza box, man.
The operations manager got behind that one. So that makes me owe for 823,000. I haven't got one yet.
Do the compromise, rip the top off, which doesn't have any grease on it,
Oh,
throw that in the
good
recycle
compromise.
bin, throw the bottom in the garbage can.
All right, well, thanks for coming anyways.
Yeah, I'll send you a text that says you can send it, put it in there. Come and testify.
His and hers.
Do we have any more questions, input? I think this was valuable for this guy anyway.
You have been so generous with your time. Thank you very much.
I've been very impressed and call myself to repentance. So
Well, we're trying to do this without judgment, but
And Nathan's been very open and gracious about coming up and visiting with us, really, and anytime we'd like, so
I just have,
appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you.
yeah, and I just have one little thing. It was my mom's experience in North Ogden, so 85 to 92 years old,
Yeah.
living in the house, and she had it seemed like it was a blue bin and a black can. And didn't even really have any garbage to throw away, but,
Yeah.
and so that was only maybe 1/3 of the way full, if that, but the recycle was like nothing.
Yeah.
So what do we do in that case? Because we do have a fair number of elderly people.
Yeah. I think that's where that might be a great place to think about your hardship policy. And you know what, I'm not 85 yet, but we're empty nesters now. And my recycling can is always much more full than my garbage can. And I've been trying to break my Amazon habit, but I haven't completely. And then a lot of the garbage is actually, you'll find is actually pretty recyclable, all that mixed paper, all the junk mail, all the cardboard, your jugs. And so you really just end up with the yucky stuff that coming out from under your kitchen sink that needs to go in your garbage bin. Unfortunately, going to every other week pickup or going to smaller garbage cans is problematic and probably doesn't save much cost.
So I was trying to grab hold of the hardship case and if, excuse me, but if anybody heard of it, they would qualify, they thought, they think, right?
Maybe.
It's hard to have.
I mean, if
two
there's
separate
neighbor
rates.
talk, well, mine only cost me.
Well, but we're gonna have to come up with something that's gonna be based on something that's measurable. Yeah, I mean, I'm just.
It might be I mean,
I'm
maybe you
just
could,
I'm just throwing this out. As we've sat in board meetings, I've had exactly the same thought you just brought up. I think of our elderly here in the community. I think of my mother-in-law, same thing. So that's something as a city council, we're gonna have to decide. Do we look at age? Do we look at economic factors? I mean, that's up to us. So that's the one thing that makes me feel more comfortable about this.
Yeah.
This mandatory recycling program is, it does give us some latitude, so.
If you make them fill out a form, make them jump through some hoops, I
Work
think
for it
that
a
would
bit,
restrict
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, just my only comment is tracking and ongoing, so whatever happened on day one doesn't stay that way, so, living circumstances and stuff like that. So we have the same thing with all of our rates. I'm more of a fan of one rate. This is what you get for it, use it or not, because, it's like I have a water rate. I don't use near 8,000 gallons. I use 1,000 gallons, but
yeah, it's based
Your
on
water
the size of your
rate-
meter.
your water rate pays for your connection and the service that we offer. And then the overage the overage is when you start paying for water because you're using excess of what the system was designed for.
You only use 1,000 gallons?
Some people do.
Oh, just-
That's all I'm saying is we have one rate and
Yeah.
we do have,
Yeah, so big.
but same thing on, sewer, we don't count flushes and when the kids come home versus when nobody's home, all of those things. So if we do go down that road, I just don't want it to be an administrative burden where it's harder to track it. And now we're using all of our admin time on tracking. That savings goes away in
A two-tiered rate.
in a hurry. So just,
Steph, do you have a preference since it's gonna fall on your shoulders?
Kind of on the side like Ty is, no.
mic up.
So I agree with Ty that it's harder to track with tiered rates and everything. And like he said, we've got the elderly people in the community. They use 0 to 1,000 gallons of water if they even use that much, yet they're paying the same water rate and the same sewer rate as a household that would use 8,000 gallons and have 2 or 3 kids at the house. And so I think if you're gonna start doing hardship cases, garbage and recycling, I think you're gonna start getting people asking for the same thing for sewer and water. Plus then the whole tracking thing.
I think that's why I like the bundle, what was presented, because our mind is still thinking 2 cans. Our mind is still thinking a second can instead of here's our new sewer, our new garbage rate,
One rate.
which we adjust all of the time. Here's your new rate. It just happens to come with 2 cans because we sponsor a program now. And so it's education on our part, but it's also a mindset of our service changed, right? So if we start having a different water system and our rate has to adjust to account for a new way.
Water treatment plant.
Yep, it's the service and that's the rate. So if we do a hardship, I just think we need to really settle in our mind that it's a bundled program first. And then if we do, it really has to be thought through on a case by case. But if it's just how much it costs to have garbage service and it just comes with a can, take it or leave it, but that's what we offer. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're still in the mindset of we're mandating a second can, which is kind of not what the bundled approach is.
I've had people in the past and one, called me up and says, why can't you come get my can and I don't have to pay a garbage fee at all? So I
Yeah.
mean,
Sure.
well, it's all,
Yeah, I've had residents that, never mind. I do monitor sometimes.
So to go along with the cost of the can, if they pay that bundled fee, that would cover the maintenance of the cans too, because right now, if a can breaks, something happens to the can, we don't charge that customer to replace that can. So that would go into the maintenance
Right.
of your service.
Wonderful. Gives us a lot to chew on and I've been, just to let you know that everybody talks about the good old days. But I've been watching some documentary stuff on the early days and we live a lot more sanitary than they did.
And we live a lot longer than they did too.
Yeah. So, yeah. So thank you and it was great.
Okay, thank you again for your time.
Good education for me and we'll adjourn this meeting.
Thanks for being with us.